Welcome back to another episode of The Towel Boy, where we try to give you the cleanest takes in sports. Today, we're going to go over the first round of the 2025 NBA draft. This completed Wednesday, the first round. The draft completed yesterday, both rounds. Um, Now that I have time to sit with each pick, we got to see the full scope of each team's draft. We have a little bit better idea of the direction each organization wants to go. So I think it's good time I can kind of talk about each pick, my own personal thoughts and feelings on each pick, as well as give kind of a grade for each selection. I think that this is always a fun thing to do after the draft, looking back, because you have your opinions pre-draft, you have your opinions during the draft, but then afterwards, when you can sit back and see all the selections, all the moves, you can kind of better gauge how you want to grade each pick based on um, the direction that the organization wants to go in, or at least looks like they want to go in, right? So without further ado, we're going to get into the first round, my ratings, my thoughts on each pick. uh, Stay tuned. Coming up, we're going to talk about more videos, more episodes talking about how other draft things, such as the second round, summer league preview. Right, free agency starts on Monday, so a lot more content coming soon. So guys, stay tuned. Um, but let's get into this first round here. First overall, we had the Dallas Mavericks. Cooper Flag went first overall. No surprise. We've known this for probably about a year now that Cooper Flag was going to be the number one overall pick. Um, I would not be surprised if the Mavericks are really good next year. They have Anthony Davis, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, Kyrie when he comes back. If they can add another guard um, while Kyrie is out, I think this is going to be a pretty good team. I think Cooper Flag could be one of the few number one overall selections that makes it to the playoffs, can win a playoff series, right? We haven't seen that since Markel Fultz did in 2017-18 season. I think A plus for this pick. We knew Cooper Flag was going number one overall. Nothing much more to say there. And then similar at number two, the San Antonio Spurs selected Dylan Harper. Long consensus been the number two player in this draft class, right? Some people thought they might trade the pick, they might go another direction just because the fit is a little bit redundant with Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox there in the backcourt. But I'm glad that the Spurs didn't overthink this. Harper was the clear best player available. I think he has the highest ceiling of anybody not named Victor Wembanyama on this roster. I think this is a great pick. A grade from me. Dylan Harper to the San Antonio Spurs. And then the draft, cliche to say, but the draft really started at number three with the Philadelphia 76ers. Um, were they going to trade the pick? Were they going to maybe go Ace Bailey? Were they going to go right a number of directions? They went VJ Edgecombe, the guard out of Baylor. I gave this pick a B plus. I think Edgecombe is a really good player. He's a elite athlete. He's going to be a really good defender. I think he will continue to improve. He's going to be a good spot shooter. I think his handle will improve. I think he's going to be a really good connective piece for Philadelphia as they probably can't compete in the Eastern Conference next year, right? With a bunch of injuries, question marks. Overall, the Eastern Conference is a weaker conference than the West. I think Philly is going to look to compete again next year. The only question mark I have with this pick would just be the rotations, the minutes with guys like Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Quentin Grimes already established in that backcourt. Where does Edgecombe fit in minutes wise? I have no questions he'll contribute, that he'll be a good player as a rookie. But just is he going to play only with Grimes or McCain as a bench player? Is he going to play a little bit of the three? They go small, you know? I'm just curious to see how that works out there in Philadelphia. B plus BJ Edgecombe to the Philadelphia 76ers. Then at number four, the Charlotte Hornets got Colin Knippel out of Duke. For me, this was an A pick. I gave this pick an A. I think this might be my favorite just fit in this draft class. I think that Knippel slides perfectly in between LaMelo and Brandon Miller at the two spot, right? He can play any role offensively. We saw when Cooper Flag went down, he was kind of that alpha offensively for Duke in the ACC tournament. He can handle the ball a little bit. Underrated playmaker, maybe the best shooter in this draft class. The Hornets needed some shooting. And I'm really excited to see him attack the secondary side, the weak side of defenses. When LaMelo or Brandon Miller is attacking downhill, kick it out to the corner, see what Knipple can do, playmaking as the ball is being reversed. I think he's just a smart basketball player, right? I think Charlotte needed more just smart, good basketball players. I think Colin Knipple fills that need for them at number 4. Then at number 5, the Utah Jazz kind of slightly a surprise. They took Ace Bailey. I gave this pick an A purely because I think Ace Bailey was the third best prospect in this class and he has a really high ceiling. There's been lots of kind of controversy about how Ace and his camp has handled the pre-draft. Reportedly, he still hasn't shown up to Utah yet. He didn't want to go to the Jazz. He was surprised that they selected him. Uh, but the front office did not care. And I like that. They chose who they thought was the best player. They took Ace Bailey here. Um, I think he's got potential to be their go-to scorer, right? If Lowry leaves, or even if Markkanen stays, Bailey has really high upside. He does have question marks about his shot selection, if he can do anything other than score, really. But if he buys into the Jazz and their organization, and he really just works on his game, he has really high ceiling. I like this pick. I think it took a little bit of guts to take him, even though he didn't want to go there. Um, I think this could be a really good selection. I gave the Jazz an A for this pick, Ace Bailey, number 5. Then at number 6, Trey Johnson went to the Wizards. The guard out of Texas. I gave this pick a B plus. I think this might have been the best player available. Uh, I think it's a little bit of a redundant fit with both CJ McCollum and Bub Carrington. I don't think Johnson is a true point guard. I think he is similar to Bub as he's like more of that two combo guard kind of. But I think he has a way higher ceiling in the backcourt than anybody else on this Wizards roster. I wouldn't be very surprised if he's their leading scorer as a rookie this season, especially next year. I think out of their young core with like guys like Koulibaly, Carrington, Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr, of course, I think Trey Johnson will be that guy who's kind of the alpha offensively. He's going to be their go-to guy. Hey, give me the ball. I'm going to put it in the basket, right? I gave this pick a B plus. I think, like I said, the fit might be a little clunky at first, but they went best player available. I'm always a fan of going best player available. Number 6, Washington Wizards, B plus, Trey Johnson. Then at number 7, the New Orleans Pelicans, they addressed some backcourt help needs that I think they still had, even with acquiring Jordan Poole. They went Jeremiah Fears, the freshman guard out of Oklahoma. I gave this pick a B grade. Um, he's a very young prospect. He should be going into his freshman year. He had a lot of great moments for someone so young playing in the SEC this year. I think he was a fantastic facilitator out of the pick and roll. He's very aggressive getting downhill, had a high free throw rate, but he struggled to finish. There's question marks with his outside shooting. I think that will come as he builds his frame, as he just gets more reps. But my question mark, why this pick might be a little bit lower, like I probably would have given this a B plus or an A minus, um, purely off of the player. But the fit is a little bit clunky. I think for his development, he needs the ball in his hands. But for a team like New Orleans, where they have Jordan Poole, they have Zion Williamson, even Trey Murphy, those guys will take priority when it comes to scoring, when it comes to ball handling. So my question is just how does Fears kind of fit into that rotation, right? Um, we will see. I like Fears as a player. I like him as a long-term piece, but just a little bit of a question mark on how he fits with this team, right? So number 7, I give the Pelicans a B with their selection of Jeremiah Fears. Then at number 8 is when the Nets had 1/6 of this first round. They had 5 picks, and everybody kind of seems to think that they kind of missed on almost all these picks in one way or another. This one I think was maybe their worst selection. At number 8, they chose Jaeger Dimon, the guard, maybe a wing out of BYU. I gave this pick a D plus. This definitely felt like a reach to me. I think that Dimon, he has upside, yes, but he's just such a raw prospect. He has a long ways to go before I think he is a true contributor in the NBA. Now, the organization seems to be really high on him. He must have worked out really well. He does have good potential. I think Jordi Fernandez is a good coach who can develop Dimon, but this just felt like too high of a selection for me. Um, Fantastic passer. He showed flashes of self creation. but he struggles against physicality, was super inefficient against quality opponents this past season. Not a very good shooter. I'm just I question if he can really address all these needs to be a quality NBA player. So this is one of my lower graded picks, D plus for the Nets for Jaeger Demon. He does have upside. We'll see if he hits that. And I might look foolish, but I feel like there's so many question marks. He's such a raw prospect that uh, I'm not sure all these question marks will be answered. Then number 9, the Toronto Raptors selected Colin Murray Boyles out of South Carolina. I gave this pick a C plus. The reason it might not be in the B range is just personally, I was a little bit lower on Colin Murray Boyles than consensus. I think he's a good player. He's a fantastic defender. He's going to be one of the best defenders in the league that I think for his career. The question for me is just he has the biggest swing skill out of any prospect in this draft class. If he can shoot the ball even at a like slightly below average rate, he'll be a really good NBA player, I think. But his shooting, I think there's just so many question marks. In this league, you have to be able to shoot at least a little bit to stick. We'll see if he's able to improve his shot. He's a good interior scorer, very high feel for the game, good passer, great defender. He adds versatility. I think him and Scotty Barnes could be a really fun duo. Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, a lot of long, athletic players could be a fun rotations. Um, but like I said, the shooting for him is just such a question mark for me. That's why I gave it a C plus. But with that said, there's a caveat. I'm not going to be super surprised if I look back and feel dumb for giving this not at least a B rating, right? With his defense, with his feel for the game, I can see a clear path for him to be one of the best players from this draft class in 10 years. And even as a rookie, I can see him making an all rookie team, right? I think there is a clearer path for him to do that. It's just if his shooting is so poor that he can't stay on the floor, that's my question mark. But the Raptors took him here. He's going to play probably the 4, maybe some 5. Um, I was very surprised they didn't take a center here. So that plays into my grading of the C plus a little bit as well. But Colin Murray Boyles at number 9 to the Raptors, I gave it a C plus. And then at number 10, the Phoenix Suns, they made that trade getting rid of Kevin Durant with the Rockets. Here they took Kaman Maluach, the center out of Duke, the third Duke player, Duke freshman, to go in the top 10 of this class. I gave this pick an A. I really like Maluach. I think he addresses a huge need for the Suns. They needed center help. Although it was kind of weird, they made that trade almost simultaneously for Mark Williams, who's a very similar player archetype to Kaman Maluach. But I love Maluach. I think he's going to be a really good defensive presence. I think he's going to be a great lob threat. He's going to be able to play off of Devin Booker in the pick and roll. I think he might have shooting potential. We'll see if he really does that. I don't think centers always have to be that pick and pop, but the form is there enough. I think if he wants to shoot every once in a while, I wouldn't be super surprised. And I think Maluach here he gets an A. He makes the KD trade Hall look really good. I think you're quite happy now if you're Phoenix. You got Maluach in that trade. Um, I give an A to the number 10 pick here. Phoenix Suns getting come on Maluach. At 11, the Grizzlies traded up to get Cedric Coward. I gave this pick a B. I was a little lower than consensus on Coward, but the Grizzlies in this whole draft class, you see in their second round picks, they wanted to add some dogs, right? They wanted to add, they prioritized defense. They wanted some length and on the wings, and Coward addresses those issues, right? 7'2" wingspan, great defensive upside. He has shooting promise as well. The Grizzlies needed a little length and help on the perimeter. Um, I feel like they could have maybe waited for their selection to get Coward or get a player similar to his skill level. They traded a 2028 future pick, um, swapped, it's got some seconds in there, swapped their pick uh, at 16 with the Blazers. But at the end of the day, if you have a guy that you think is your dude, um, you're going to move up to get him. And I think that's what the Grizzlies did. So you can't knock the trade too much. I don't think it was too much value for the guy that they think might be their small forward for the future. So back to back years following the selection of Jalen Wells that the Grizzlies took a Washington State wing. I think Coward could fit in well as a good defensive player. I compare him a lot to Dorian Finney-Smith. I think if he can hit that as his ceiling in the NBA, that's just a good pick by the Grizzlies. So I give this pick a B at number 11. Then at number 12, we have the Chicago Bulls. They select Noah Essengay with their 12th overall selection. I gave this pick a B plus. Essengay is one of the best slashers in this class. I think he's a very elite, fluid athlete, and I think the combination of him and Buzelis um, could be a really fun wing forward duo for the future. Right, both guys who move fluidly, have elite size, 6'10", 6'11" at that forward, maybe small forward wing spot. Essengay can be a really good off-ball player. Um, he has defensive upside if he continues to improve his shooting. I think this is going to be a really good selection by Chicago. I think this was a good pick, a smart selection. Gave this pick a B plus. Then at 13, the New Orleans Pelicans, they traded up with the Atlanta Hawks to get their guy Derek Queen, the freshman center out of Maryland. I gave this pick a B minus. This is a hard one for me to grade because in the grand scheme of things, they're rookies. Like the actual players that the Pelicans selected with Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen, I like both those rookies. I think they're both going to be good NBA players. I gave this pick a B minus. It could have been lower, but I like Derek Queen a lot, so I gave it a pick a B minus. The Pelicans traded a lot to get Derek Queen here at 13. They swapped the number 23 pick with the Hawks, and they gave up a 2026 pick, which is going to be the most favorable out of either between Milwaukee and New Orleans. With the Damian Lillard injury, with the West being so stacked, there's a good chance that Milwaukee and or New Orleans are going to have a high pick in the draft next year. It looks to be a loaded 2026 draft class, so I think New Orleans probably will regret giving up that 2026 pick. But again, I like Derek Queen. I do actually like the fit of him and Zion offensively. Could be really fun. There will be huge question marks as that's your front court defensively. I think both those guys have question marks as rim protectors. Um, I don't think Queen is the best interior defender. I think he moves on the perimeter a little bit better than he gets credit for, but question marks on the defensive end for sure. And then, like Jeremiah Fears, I think Derek Queen needs the ball to be most effective. To best develop both Jeremiah Fears and to develop Derek Queen, I think both those guys want the ball in their hands. Now, in New Orleans, are they going to have the ball in their hands a lot? If New Orleans wants to, I just question the direction that New Orleans is going with these picks. If Joe Dumars is saying, hey, we're going to trade Herb Jones, maybe we're going to trade Trey Murphy, these picks make a lot more sense. But if they want to compete in the West next year, a stacked West where 42 wins might be a play-in team, I don't know how is Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears going to contribute to you guys making a playoff push. Obviously, they were high on Queen. They traded a lot to get him. But if both Fears and Queen need the ball to develop, I don't see the Pelicans winning as many games as they would probably want. If they're okay with tanking, Queen and Fears will get the ball a lot, but then again, they traded that pick for next year. So, like, what are they doing? A lot of question marks. That's why Derek Queen gets a B minus. I like Queen as the player. Very unsure of the direction the Pelicans are going here with that 13th overall pick. Then at 14, the Spurs, very smart, very safe selection. Went Carter Bryant out of Arizona. I gave this pick a B. I think he's the perfect archetype to fit alongside their young guards that we talked about with Harper, Castle, Fox. Of course, there's Wemby. They need guys who can just play good perimeter defense and make catch and shoot threes. I think Carter Bryant fits that perfectly. He does. He offers defensive upside. Could guard probably 2 through 4. He doesn't need the ball to be effective on offense. Just needs to hit shots. High upside, young player, great pick. Give this pick a B. I gave this pick just a B because I don't think he has the highest upside in the draft class, but also I think he has a very high floor. So I think B is a great grade for this selection. Number 14, the Spurs got Carter Bryant. Then at 15, the Oklahoma City took Thomas Sorber, the young center out of Georgetown. I gave this pick an A. I love this pick. I love this fit. There were rumors that the Thunder were looking to maybe trade up in this draft class, get in the lottery, the top 10, presumably to get a center. But it looks like they didn't have to. They got their guy here at 15. We saw this year with Hartenstein, with Jalen Williams, Jay Will, with Chet Holmgren getting injured, uh, they needed a little bit more help and depth in the front court. I think Sorber will be able to contribute minutes to the champions next year, but also this is just such a smart organizational move. In a couple years, when Hartenstein might his contract expires, J Dub, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren, their rookie extensions are going to have to kick in. They're not going to be able to pay Hartenstein, so they'll have Sorber as kind of that Hartenstein replacement. I think this was a brilliant pick. I think he's going to be a really good pick and roll roller. He has great rim protecting upside. Very smart pick. They didn't have to trade to get their guy. 15 Oklahoma City. I gave their selection of Thomas Sorber an A. And then at 16, we had the biggest shock of the entire draft. Hansen Yang, the Chinese center, played in the CBA this past year, put up really good numbers, but in a weak league. The Blazers, they had that pick that we talked about with the Grizzlies. Hansen Yang, I gave this pick a D plus. This was hard for me. I like Hansen Yang. I think his upside is really fun. His footwork phenomenal. He has great highlights. Um, but I do think there is a lot of work to do with his potential, with how he fits on the team. I think you saw him be most effective when he got the ball a lot in the CBA with his post ups, with his footwork. In the NBA, I don't think he's going to be able to post up that much. He's a room to go as a roller. Defensively, he's not terrible as a lateral mover, but he's not elite. Um, and this was just a reach for me. He was mocked to go in the second round. I don't think they needed to take him with the 16th pick. Now, like I said earlier with Cedric Coward, the Blazers have liked him for a couple of years. Reportedly, they worked him out, had a good workout. They've scouted him previous years. Uh, so if you like your guy and you like your guy, take him. Does feel like a little bit. It is a reach for me. Definitely a reach. Um, some people call him the Chinese Jokic, which I mean, obviously, if that even is like a third of the way true, I'll look foolish. Everybody criticizing this pick will look foolish. But it's also just a weird fit because they took Donovan Clingan with the seventh overall pick just a year ago, who seems to be the center of the future, right? So why would you take another center? Question marks there. If he's your guy, if he pans out, he does have high upside. I'll look really dumb for giving this pick a D plus. But the Blazers, I gave Hansen Yang a D plus. And with the next pick, the 17th overall pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves selected Joan Behringer. He played in the Adriatic League in Slovenia last year. This is a future Rudy Gobert replacement, no doubt about it, right? Behringer, he developed rapidly this past season, and I do think he projects to be a good role player in this league. So I gave this pick a B minus. Um, I would have thought that personally, I think the Wolves should have gone with a guard that needed some backcourt help, or just a center to be more NBA ready, right? They probably want to take that step to make it to the finals, to win a championship. I don't think Behringer will contribute to that directly this year, but I love the potential for in a couple of years for him to be that Gobert replacement. He's going to be a high energy guy. I think he'll be a good defender. Uh, so I gave this pick a B minus. I think it's a pretty good pick. Um, I love Chris Finch talked about like there are plans for him that he's going to be a little bit of a developmental piece, but they have a clear plan for him in the future, and I love that when organizations have a clear plan, a clear idea for their players. So B minus to the Wolves here with their pick. And then at 18, the Utah Jazz took Walter Clayton Jr. I gave this pick a B minus. A little bit of a funky fit here to me, I'll be honest. We've talked a lot about how they just have a lot of guys, not a lot of great elite talented guys. I think it's very likely that Colin Sexton or Jordan Clarkson gets traded. So that opens up the floor for Walter Clayton to get some more minutes. I think he's probably more NBA ready than some of their other guys like Isaiah Collier. I'm still not super high on Keontae George. I think Clayton could be a contributor as a rookie. So this is kind of a tough one because I don't know what the Jazz really should have done here. It just feels like not the greatest pick, but also like I think Clayton's a decent selection here. Give it a B minus. We'll see what happens with Walter Clayton in Utah. Then at 19, the Brooklyn Nets took Nolan Traore here. I gave this pick a C plus. We'll talk about it later once we finish all of their picks. The Nets had a weird draft. I like Nolan Traore, downhill driver, really good player. I think with potential. So I gave this a C plus. But the fit with Jaeger Dimon is weird. Dimon needs the ball to be most effective as a passer. Traore needs the ball to be most effective as a downhill driver, scorer, facilitator. They both can't always have the ball. Uh, we'll see what their plan is. Um, I like kind of like the Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen thing I talked about. I like the player. Don't love the fit. C plus for the Nets getting Nolan Traore. And then reversely at 20, the Miami Heat selected the Illinois freshman point guard Kasparis Yakuchonis. I gave this pick an A. I was surprised to see Yakuchonis fall this far in the draft. Uh, and I think Miami snagged him immediately. A very smart pick. They needed backcourt health. Tyler Hero is better off ball, I think. Uh, Kasparis will take some usage and pressure off of Hero. He's got the size. He's 6'6", good passer, good ball handler. He will pair well with Hero. Will pair well with Davion Mitchell if he returns. Um, I think the playmaking he offers, the size he offers, I think he has shooting upside. I think this is a really, really good pick. He slid. The Heat selected best player available by far. Um, yeah, A pick for the Miami Heat. I've seen some people compare him to Goran Dragic, his game. Dragic had a lot of really good seasons in Miami. If Yaku Jonas can recreate those numbers, those years that Dragic had, fantastic selection here. So Yaku Jonas gave this pick an A to the Miami Heat. Then at 21, we have the Washington Wizards taking their second pick in this draft. They went Will Riley, the freshman wing out of Illinois. Back to back Illinois players here in the draft. I gave this pick a B minus. I think Will Riley is a kind of a swing pick, but I think the Wizards could afford to take a swing pick. Swing pick, right? I'm a huge Chris Middleton fan, have long been. I think he's a great mentor for a guy like Will Riley. We'll slow the game down for Riley. We'll show him some just how to make the game simpler. Uh, Riley will need time to develop, but I think in Washington with guys like Middleton, they have Keyshawn George and Koulibaly. I think Riley will have time to play in the G League. Will get some NBA minutes, but I think there is a path if they're patient with him that he becomes an important wing scorer for the Wizards franchise. So, uh, another high swing, high risk pick here, but also I don't think it's a huge risk because if he doesn't pan out, they have other wings. Not the end of the world. But if he does pan out, really good wing scorer, whether as a starter, off the bench. Gave this pick a B minus to the Wizards here. Then at number 22, the Brooklyn Nets took Drake Powell. Um, I gave this pick a C minus. Powell was my 50th ranked player on the board, so I was way lower on Powell than consensus. But I was not very surprised that a team was going to take a chance on him. Ton of physical tools, athletic promise, good defensive upside. I just think he's a really big project offensively. I don't think he's ever going to quite get there on the offensive end of the floor. That's just my own personal opinion. Of course, I'm not an expert. The Nets, they saw what they saw. They liked him. So maybe it's worth taking a swing on this guy. So this is three guys in a row with Dimon, Traore, Powell that are kind of swing picks. But if they think he has a high ceiling, then this pick makes some sense as a wing project player. I just think there was better players available though that could return more immediate impact for the Nets and have higher long term ceilings. So I gave this pick a C minus just because there is some upside, but just personally, I don't think Powell will ever quite be a huge contributor in the NBA. At 23, the Atlanta Hawks took Asa Newell. I gave this pick an A plus. This is my favorite value in this whole draft class. My big board, I had Newell as a ninth highest rated prospect. Now that is higher than consensus than what most people had Newell at. I'm a big fan of Newell. And I think this is a great, great fit for Atlanta. I don't think there would have been any complaints from Hawks fans or just the NBA community if the Hawks had stayed at 13 and took Asa Newell. So the fact that they moved down 10 spots, got that 2026 pick uh, with that trade from the Pelicans, and got Newell, I think this is a home run grand slam, right? He will be a great lob threat for Trae Young. He was a really good finisher in transition. Trae Young, Jalen Johnson are fun transition players. Newell should fit right in with them. Love how he slots in there. I think he can play the four. He can play the five. I think he has a lot of good defensive upside. I think he showed touch. I think he can be a capable NBA shooter. Not great, but capable. Um, which he needs to be because he's kind of that tweener at the four or the five. He needs to be able to shoot a little bit, but he's going to be a fantastic lob threat for Trae Young. Great value here. I gave this pick an A plus, one of my favorite picks of this entire draft. And then at 24, Sacramento Kings traded with the Thunder to take Nick Clifford, the wing out of Colorado State. Older player, older prospect, but I gave this pick a B. I like the pick for Sacramento. Clifford is a good basketball player, and sometimes good basketball players return good value. And I like this pick for the Kings. Maybe doesn't have the highest upside because of his age. I don't think he's elite at anything, but he's good at a lot of things. Good connective passer. I like his post up game, which I don't know he'll do a lot of with people like Sabonis there. Um, but if he can continue to improve consistency as an outside shooter, I think he will carve a very important role for the Kings organization. He will become a fan favorite. Um, and like I said, he's just a good basketball player. And I think if you can fit good basketball players on your team, at the end of the day, that is going to be very important. So I think Kings getting Nate Clifford here is a good selection. I gave this pick a B. Then at 25, Chase Richardson went to the Orlando Magic. I gave this pick an A minus. I was a little bit lower on Richardson than some people. I like him as a player, but some people had him as a top 10 prospect. I wasn't that high, but I absolutely love this fit in Orlando, right? I think that the Magic still needed some shooting help. They needed some guard depth, even with the trade for Desmond Bain. And I think Richardson is the perfect selection here. He can be a good spot up shooter. And I think he's going to create value as a rookie, as a bench scorer, coming off the bench as like that sixth, seventh man playing combo guard. And I think the fact that he's not going to have a high usage as a guard, as a rookie guard, will help his long term development. Some guards need the ball in their hands to develop, get those NBA reps. I think the fact that there's Paolo Banchero there, Franz Wagner there, Jalen Suggs there, Desmond Bain there, those guys are all going to have the ball more than Jace Richardson. Jace Richardson will not have too much on his shoulders. Um, and so he'll be able to kind of play his game, play off ball, play a little on ball, and not be forced to be super important. The fact that he will have a role as a bench scorer, I think, is a great fit. He helps their shooting woes, helps their backcourt depth. I love the fit of Jason Richardson in Orlando. A minus pick from me. Then this next pick was so tough for me because I've been very vocal about how high I was on this prospect. At 26, the Brooklyn Nets selected Ben Seraph. Ben Seraph, I gave it a C plus. I had Ben Seraph just outside the top 10 as my one of my favorite prospects. I loved Seraph. But his fit in Brooklyn is just not a good fit. With Jaeger Damon being there, with Nolan Traore being there, and now Ben Seraph, those are three guards with question marks with their shooting ability, right? None of them are great shooters. They all need the ball to best be utilized. How are you going to get all of them on the court and be productive? I just am very confused about those three selections in particular, right? I love Ben Seraph. I would have taken him earlier in this draft if I was a GM. So who knows? Maybe I'm just silly for that. But those three guys, they all do have a high feel for the game. So I will give Sean Marks and Jordy Fernandez some credit. They clearly had an idea. They wanted guys who were good passers, high IQ, high feel for the game. So those three guys and their next pick all have that. So C plus for me with Ben Seraph. But I'm not sure how the Nets are going to utilize all of these picks. I was surprised they made all five selections. Maybe they trade them later, but Sean Marks, Jordy Fernandez, they must have a plan for these guys. I will be curious to see how it goes with those three guards. But Ben Seraph at 26, I gave a C plus. The Nets were up again at 27. They took Danny Wolf, another guy who needs the ball in their hands to be super effective, I think. But I gave this pick a B, which I just like to fit a little bit better because he adds variety to their front court, right? He's an offensively skilled big man. Uh, which is a change of pace from the Nick Claxton or the Dayron Sharps that they might have in their center position. Uh, we'll see how they develop all of these players. Weird fits, but Danny Wolf, just in a vacuum, I like him a little bit more than the other guys just because he can offer some versatility at his position. I gave this pick a B. Then at 28, the Boston Celtics selected Hugo Gonzalez out of Real Madrid. I gave this pick a D. I was not very high on Gonzalez, and I think he's a long ways away from being a big contributing factor in the NBA. Uh, I think there were better players that could fit in Boston, like a Maxime Reynaud, a Ryan Kalkbrenner. I would have really liked Noah Penda, Rasheer Fleming were on the board. I don't think Gonzalez is very close to being an NBA player. Um, maybe they have a plan for him. We'll see. Joe Mazzulla is a great coach, good organization, but I question the fit here. I question his upside. I get to pick a D. I was not a big fan. I don't have a lot more to add to that other than the fact that I think there were better players available. I don't like the fit of Gonzalez in Boston. At 29, the Hornets took Liam McNeely out of UConn. I gave this pick a B plus. I've talked a lot about how he was disappointing um, compared to his high school Montverde, how much he was highly touted out of high school, but he dealt with injuries at UConn. And I think at 29, if you would have told the Hornets a year ago they would have gotten Knipple and McNeely, uh, they would have been ecstatic, right? They probably would have both been projected top 10 picks in the preseason. Uh, the fact that McNeely won't need the ball in Charlotte, I think, is really good. He's going to be an off-ball wing for them. Should just be a catch and shoot scorer. I really think. I think the potential of him as that catch and shoot wing, playing the three, maybe the four, uh, fits in the Hornets. I think he's also a smart player. Like I said, I think they need smart basketball players to fit alongside to start creating um, a really fundamental foundation here with Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, now Knipple. I think McNeely can be a good additional piece to that team. So B plus for me for the Hornets. Then at 30, last pick of the first round, the Clippers took Yannick Conan Niederhauser, the center out of Penn State. I gave this a D plus because I don't think Niederhauser has a very high ceiling. At 30, you're not going to always get a high ceiling players, but I think there were better players available. Like I mentioned for the Celtics, there were people like Maxime Reynaud, Ryan Kalkbrenner. I also think Noah Pinta or Rasheer Fleming could have fit with the Clippers a little bit. I think they did need some center help, so I think that selection here, um, as far as the center goes, makes a lot of sense. But Niederhauser, I just don't see him being much better than like a Jackson, a Hayes type player, high energy lob threat that doesn't do a whole lot else. I think they could have gotten better contributors, especially at that center position, which why is why I knocked this draft pick so much. Maybe this is a little bit too low and I'm being too harsh on this draft pick, but he's going to be a backup big for them. He's going to, if he can give them high energy minutes, um, provide okay defense, just be a lob threat with Harden or whatever. I'll probably look a little bit harsh on this pick, but yeah, 30 last pick in this first round. I gave the Clippers a D plus of their selection of Yannick Conan Niederhauser. And there it is. There is the first round of this draft. Those are all my kind of just some initial thoughts, ideas of each selection. Uh, more content coming soon on the second round of some of the two-way contracts, so the undrafted players getting signed. Uh, So stay tuned for that. As always, there's the Spotify at the Towel Boy, YouTube the Towel Boy, and if you can find the blog where it has my little write-ups on each of these selections at hoopsandstuff.blogspot.com. Go ahead and check that out. Give that a comment. Uh, I would love to know your guys' thoughts on each selection of the draft of the first round. Who you thought fits well, picks you liked, picks you didn't like. So go ahead and let me know what you guys thought. And yeah, there it is. There's my grades and reactions of the 2025 NBA draft and the first round. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you around next time.